Picture this. February 2023, my cardiologist just cleared me after a cardiac ablation, which is a procedure to correct an irregular heartbeat. I'm healthy, I'm free, taking no meds, just a baby aspirin. I have zero medical reasons to hold back. So I decide to go back to the gym. And I go regularly. I want you to know that part because what I'm about to tell you is a little embarrassing. I would go and do one of those circuits on all the machines. I showed up, did the thing, chest press, cable rows, leg press, little cardio to finish, checked every box. My heart, though, it just wasn't in it. I was going through the motions of becoming a healthy person without actually committing to it. No real effort, no real intention, technically present, genuinely absent. And the whole time, I had a perfectly reasonable explanation. I need to take it easy. I just had a heart procedure, so I need to ease back into this. Sounds responsible, right? Here's the thing. What I was doing wasn't caution. It was avoidance wearing the face of caution. I knew what I needed to do. I just wasn't doing it. And I had a reasonable friend living in my head who kept telling me that this was completely fine. That reasonable friend, that's resistance. I call it the inner voice. Today we'll call it the reasonable friend. And it has been your most loyal, most convincing, most dangerous companion for years. Now, before I go any further, if any part of what I just said made you uncomfortable a little bit, good. Stay with that feeling because this episode is about the thing that's been stopping you that you've been calling something else entirely. And if this lands, give it a like or hit subscribe. We'd love to have you. Let me read you something. You ready? I just need a little more clarity first. I'm not ready yet. I don't want to fail. I'll get to it later. I need to prepare more before I start. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make the wrong decision. I'll just stay busy with other things. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to attract attention to myself. I need to keep the peace. I don't want to disappoint anyone. I'll take some time to think about it. I'm not ready yet. How many of those did you say in the past? Or worse yet, this week? Every single one of those sounds completely reasonable. None of them are. That is your reasonable friend talking. And your reasonable friend, also known as your inner voice, and I want you to really hear this, your reasonable friend does not show up looking like fear. It doesn't show up looking like avoidance either. And it never shows up in a way you'd recognize and push back against. It shows up calm, measured, logical, and always with your best interests at heart. And it has been advising you to stay exactly where you are for years. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean slightly annoying. The older you get, the smarter your reasonable friend gets. When you're 25, resistance is pretty obvious. I don't feel like it, maybe tomorrow. You can catch that. You've heard that before. But at 50, at 60, your reasonable friend has had decades to study you, to learn your values, your history, your specific pressure points. It stops using generic excuses and starts using your excuses, built from your actual life, your actual experience, your actual hard-won wisdom. And those are much harder to catch because they don't just sound like logic, they sound exactly like you. So let me show you what I mean. Let's take this one. I need just a little more clarity first. This one is for the thoughtful ones, the strategic ones, people who've been praised their whole lives for thinking before they act. And it sounds so reasonable. Of course you want clarity before you move. Of course you want a plan. Here's the problem. Clarity almost never comes before movement. It comes because of movement. You gain it by starting badly and adjusting. But this one is so well packaged that smart, careful people carry it for years without noticing. I carried that into the gym. I needed to figure out the right approach before I could really commit. Meanwhile, I'm on a chest press lifting weight that wouldn't challenge a 12-year-old. Really? Very strategic of me. Here's the next one. I'm too busy right now. Not because you're lazy, because you're productive. This is the trap of capable people specifically. There is always another project, another commitment, another thing that genuinely needs your attention. And your reasonable friend isn't saying don't do it. It's just saying do it later. And later is where a lot of dreams quietly go to die, quietly pushed forward 1 week at a time until the weeks become years. Next one. Maybe I'm already doing enough. Ooh, this one contains a real truth. which is exactly what makes it dangerous. You probably are doing more than most people. You've built things, changed things, grown in real ways. All of that is true, and your future doesn't care how you compare to most people. It responds to what you're capable of becoming. When that thought, maybe I'm already doing enough, when it brings you relief instead of peace, that's the tell. Relief means you were looking for an exit. Peace means you've actually arrived somewhere. Ask yourself, which one is it right now? You'll know immediately. And then here's the one that gets me personally. I should focus on what I already have. After everything, the health rebuild, the career pivots, building this platform, getting my life to a place that genuinely feels good, I can sit with real gratitude. And I do. I mean that sincerely. And somewhere underneath that gratitude, quietly, in a voice that sounds a lot like wisdom, is guilt. Who am I to want more? Look at everything I have. Isn't this enough? I want to say that out loud because I think a lot of you feel it and nobody's saying it. We've been taught that gratitude is the destination, that wanting more after you've been given so much is somehow ungrateful, maybe even greedy. So we sit with our blessings and we call it peace. But if I'm honest, and I'm really trying to be right now on camera, sometimes it isn't peace. Sometimes it's guilt wearing the face of contentment. Sometimes I'm not actually satisfied. I'm just afraid to admit that I want more because wanting more feels like betraying everything I already have. Gratitude is a foundation, it is not a ceiling. And your reasonable friend, clever, patient, always well informed, figured out that for some of us, guilt is a more effective leash than fear ever was. So it hands us our blessings and whispers, "Don't disturb this." That voice has been advising you to stay exactly where you are, and you've been taking the advice. So, why does the brain do this? Well, here's what I can share, and this actually helped me stop beating myself up about the gym situation. Your brain is not your enemy. And before I go further, I am not a brain scientist or a neurospecialist. I'm just telling you anecdotally based on my experience. But your brain, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting you from perceived threat. The problem is, it can't tell the difference between an actual threat and you finally deciding to become the next version of yourself. Both trigger the same alarm. Both get the same response. Find a logical reason to stop. Call a reasonable friend. The logic didn't come first. The fear did. The brain encountered something unfamiliar, change, growth, a new identity, decided it was dangerous, and then reverse engineered a completely reasonable sounding argument for staying put. That's the self-talk, the inner voice. Think of it like a trail through the woods. You've walked the same path for 50 years. It's a highway now, wide, smooth, completely automatic. The new path, the one toward what you actually want, is barely visible. Of course your brain prefers the highway. It's not weak, it's efficient. But here's what's also true. Every single time you take a step on the new trail, you widen it. Small steps don't trigger the alarm. The brain doesn't register a 10-minute workout as identity level change, but 10 minutes repeated becomes the trail, and eventually the new path feels as natural as the old one did. By the time your brain notices you're different, you already are. You have become. So what's the move? One question. Next time your reasonable friend, inner voice, shows up with a really good, calm, measured argument, all loaded, to keep you right where you are, ask yourself this. What happens if I listen and do nothing? That's it. One question. Because you already know the answer. You've lived the answer. I lived it going through that circuit with my heart somewhere else entirely, eating what I wanted, watching my energy and my attitude quietly erode, all while telling myself I was being responsible. So I took my first baby step. On January 1st, 2025, I walked downstairs and did a 10-minute workout. My reasonable friend had a list of reasons not to. I heard the list before. I walked through the noise anyway. That 10 minutes is now strength training 4 days a week, not because I'm a different person, because small evidence accumulates. The identity shifts, and eventually the bigger version of yourself doesn't feel like danger anymore. It feels like who you already are. If you want the full self-diagnostic, grab the free worksheet in the description. Takes 5 minutes. Worth considerably more than that. Your reasonable friend is not going to go away. It's going to keep showing up. The move isn't to fight it. It's to recognize it, name it, and ask one question that cuts straight through. What happens if I listen and do nothing? You already know the answer. It's time to get you a new advisor. Thank you for hanging out with me. Take 5 minutes and start doing something today. And as always, blessings.